Welcome to the Mindset Game podcast. I am so delighted to introduce you to Dr. Sara Safari. Sara is an author, speaker, mountain climber, college professor, electrical engineer, and advocate for women empowerment. She is also the founder and president of Climb Your Everest nonprofit organization. She has received multiple awards, including the Global Citizen Award from the United Nations Association in 2015, and the Outstanding Practice with Broad Impact in the Area of Women and Leadership from the International Leadership Association in 2017. Sara is the first Iranian in history to climb the 7 summits, which is the 7 highest peaks in each continent. Her historic Everest climb is featured in the Netflix documentary Aftershock, which, by the way, I highly recommend. I enjoyed it. And Sara now works with organizations that want to develop highly productive teams that deliver profit, performance, and engagement. Her journey and her many accomplishments have made her an awesome, popular presenter for corporations and associations. And that's how I got to meet Sara. And so, Sara, it is such a delight and an honor to have you here on the show. Thank you.
Thank you, Vera. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. And I imagine in the minds of everybody listening, certainly on my mind, is how do you do it? Like, how do you achieve such an extraordinary accomplishment?
I would say it takes a lot of commitment, persistence, courage, but anybody can do this. When I started mountain climbing 10 years ago, I had zero experience. I didn't like, I had zero muscles on my body. I never went to the gym before. And I didn't know anyone in my family or extended family who had ever hiked or climbed. I hated cold weather. I would wear a jacket in California. I was scared of the spiders, never slept in a sleeping bag, never went camping before. So this was all very brand new for me, and I had to train myself from zero to Everest, zero to infinity, really, to the highest mountain in the world. So I kind of had to learn everything very fast, very quickly, because I wanted to get there. And so I promised a nonprofit organization that I raise funds for them for the climb. And I started climbing different mountains all over the world. And I promised that I raise $1 per foot of Everest or any mountain that I climb in preparation for Everest to raise funds for the girls to continue their education so they don't become victims of human trafficking or forced to get married at a very young age. And that's how it all started. In 2015, when I was climbing Everest, there was a 7.8 earthquake when I was at 20,000 feet. So it takes 60 days to climb Everest. So this was day 25. So we've been already climbed the mountain for 25 days. And I was on a wall, and that's the Aftershock, the documentary that you saw on Netflix. Kind of it go over what happened on that day, the day of the earthquake. And so I was on the wall, climbing the wall, and we got extremely lucky because there was avalanches that didn't hit us. There are so many people died. It was a very hard and difficult day, a devastating earthquake. 10,000 people died that day. And we survived it. We got rescued. But I was extremely angry and upset because I just raised funds for the girls to continue their education. But now they lost their homes, they lost their schools, they lost all their belongings. And it was just unbelievable. And so that was back in 2015. I didn't want to teach the women that I was working with to quit. I want to teach them that life happens, negative thing happens in our lives, but then we still have to continue. So I told them I'm going to come back and climb Everest again, but not just Everest. I'm going to add 6 more mountains to it. The 7 summits, the 7 high peaks on 7 continents, and not just for Nepali girls. I'm going to add 6 other nonprofit organizations to the list. So for each one of the organizations, I promised to raise the $1 per foot of that mountain that I was climbing for them, to raise funds for the women who were part of that organization. And and I heard that there are no other Iranians who have climbed the 7 summits. And I thought, especially what's happening in Iran, the women's movement, the women life freedom movement that is happening in Iran. And I thought for a country like Iran, which women are second citizens, they never have opportunities, they equal to men, they don't have access to the same rights. I thought it would be great if a woman, on behalf of all the 40 million women in Iran and 4 billion women in the world, to do such a thing. And I don't want to exclude men. It's on behalf of everyone who cares about equality, everyone who cares about equal opportunities. And so I climbed the 7 summits, but the last one, of course, was Everest. And I had a lot of trauma from Everest since 2015 and the avalanche and the earthquake and all the lives who've been lost. And so I finally convinced myself last year, 2022, to go back and climb Everest again. So on May 20th, I summited Everest again, and that was a huge thing for me and for the organization. And while going this process, I created a nonprofit organization, and while going through the process, I met so many beautiful, amazing women all over the world who've been fighting so hard to have a better life. So it's been an amazing and beautiful journey. So to answer your question, what is it like to climb these 7 summits? It is crazy adventurous and a beautiful experience. But what was more beautiful than the mountain were those women that I met in each country and learned about their life and their story.
Thank you for sharing a bit of your story and what has brought meaning to this incredible adventure or adventures that you've had. Sara, in this podcast, we've had many guests to give us advice, best practices for resilience, for mastering our mindset, being a high performer. And it's like, you are the very essence of that, right? You're the demonstration of that. So I'm curious, since this is a podcast about mindset, what are some of the beliefs that you kind of developed or needed to embrace in order to achieve the extraordinary achievements?
Remember the wall that I just told you when I was on when the earthquake happened? So going back to that wall and facing that wall that I was climbing, I was on top of the wall when the whole wall started shaking. And you watched my TEDx, so the pictures that I showed and everything. So it's when I had to go back to that wall and face that whole trauma all over again. And I want everybody who's listening to this to think about their own walls, their own Everests that they're climbing every day, and their own walls that they face every day. For me, there was so much trauma and fear connected to that wall. So when I went back a few months back in 2022 to climb that wall again, I just looked up the wall and I started crying. I just couldn't stop crying. And all of us in our lives, we have walls. We have a lot of negative moments, or I don't want to say negative in a negative sense, because those are our best moments, and those are the moments that help us grow. So I look at the wall and I started crying and I was frozen and I didn't want to go back to that wall again. Who wants to go back to that moment? But then my guide from up there, which we all have guides and mentors, from up there, from up the wall, he started yelling, Sara, come up. And I said, nope, I'm not coming. I want to stay down here. And he said, why do you give so much power to the wall? And our walls are so strong that they have so much history in our lives. And sometimes it's not just one incident. There are incidents back to back, back to back. And that neuron pathway for that wall, for that fear, for that incident becomes so strong, becomes like a freeway, right? And so he started yelling like, don't give so much power to the wall. And I'm crying the whole time and I'm frozen and I don't want to climb the wall. And he said, why do you waste your energy on crying? You are dehydrated already. This is 20,000 feet. You need to save your energy. Come up, just take one step. And I just told myself, I'm scared. I can't continue, but I came all the way here to face this wall. And I just told myself, I'm just going to take one step. I didn't want to, but I said, I'm going to negotiate with myself again after this one step. So I took that one step, and it was not that bad, even though I was fully shaking and everything. And I decided to take the next step and the next step. And then after a few minutes, the wall was done. The wall was finished. And I cried the whole time while I was climbing the wall. And I saw the whole earthquake all over again. And I saw the avalanches and I saw the bodies. And I saw my mom crying all over again. Like, why do you do this again? Why did you go back to do this? And I saw all the women that I was doing fundraising for. So I would say we all have a lot of walls. You have a lot of Everest. I'm sure there are very high achievers who are listening to this. And they have many, many mountains and many, many Everests that they want to climb in different areas of their life, not just work. But then at the same time, they have tons of walls. So I would say the mindset, to answer your question, the mindset that I had to really master was that there are walls. They're there to help me grow and develop myself. Instead of escaping the wall, I'm just going to embrace the whole experience, cry through the whole thing, but that's okay. That's my emotion. I'm just going to stay with it, do it, take one step at a time, and trust myself, even though that was very scary. And that's the mindset I have to keep repeating for myself. Because Everest takes 60 days. So I had to say this to myself 60 days in a row, morning to night. And that was my mindset most of the time.
So I really honor your courage for stepping into that. And I think the biggest message for me is that really nothing is impossible.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a lot of times we are not aware of our own powers. We forget. We take things for granted. We forget. Really, after like climbing Everest, I feel like nothing is impossible, really. I was the last person on the whole planet who could do such a thing, who would be able to do such a thing. And Everest was on one side, fundraising on the other side. I couldn't even ask my own mom for money. And now I have to go out there and ask strangers to do fundraising for these nonprofit organizations. And so I think we are capable of so much and we are not aware of it. And I think it's very important to have a mentor, to have a guide, to have friends, to have family members, people in your team, employees, who can remind you how amazing and strong you are and how capable you are. And it might look difficult and very challenging, but we are all capable. And we just need to trust ourselves and be courageous and take one step at a time.
And I think it really is important to find that tribe, those people that can believe that it is possible for us to get to our peak. And I think it's also important to have that greater meaning. You had those girls in mind, their futures, women in general, anybody, as you said, who believes in equality in mind, as you were climbing, that altruistic intention. Your belief in what's possible for others seems like was a real engine to keep you going.
Yeah, I think any big project needs the big why. Like when people have an Everest size kind of a project, they need to be very clear on why am I doing this, why this is important. Because when I'm up in the mountain, every single step, every day that I'm sick and I'm coughing and I have headache and I don't want to continue on and I'm missing my family and it is cold and I haven't showered for 60 days. And it's like when everything is so difficult and I'm sick on top of all that, and I'm freezing cold and I cannot feel my fingers and my toes. And I ask myself, why? So now people who have big companies, then there are lots of employees and a lot of big projects. Probably there are days they're like, why am I doing this? If the why is not clear, if you don't know why, if it is not helping others grow and be better, I think if the goals are personal and small goals and small why, that's not satisfying. We quit, we stop because it's not big enough for us. And for me, the biggest thing was that making a difference for these women, because the way I grew up, the place that I grew up, and never been empowered by the society, I thought, now that I'm lucky to live here and be here, now I'm responsible to give back. So if you're in a place and a position in your community, in your organization, that you can give back, you can help people grow and develop themselves, you can help encourage them to see their strengths and weaknesses, if you can challenge them to be a better person, then I think that's our responsibility. And it's a gift. It's a privilege that we ended up in that position. Like for me, like meeting these women, like being with these women, knowing that I can help them, it's such an honor. Like every time that I spend time with them, I learn so much about myself. Like what are the things I need to work on? How can I be a better person in my own life, in my business, in my nonprofit organization? They make me a better leader as a result of their contribution. And so the leaders who are listening to this, you have that position. It's such an honor and privilege to be there and stand there. So let's use that. Yes, let's give and make a difference in the people's lives who we have access to. And I think that was one of the biggest things that I had to discover while climbing these mountains and while working with these nonprofit organizations.
Yeah. It truly is a privilege to be any type of leader, meaning that you have influence over others. And it comes with a responsibility to uplift, to empower, to inspire. And in order to do that, we first need to fill our own battery. Because if we're depleted, we're not able to help others nor climb our own Everest.
Yeah.
And so what are some tips that you have for resilience? Because my goodness, I mean, from watching your TED Talk and watching the movie, there are moments where I said to myself, I don't know how she did it, how she got back up and did it. So what are some tips that you have for the rest of us?
I would say the number thing that comes to my mind right now is that the relationship with failing and failure. Our society is projecting it as something negative. When we climb the mountains, we don't go to the summit in one shot. So like a high altitude mountain like Everest, we climb it like 4 times. We go up to a higher elevation, we come down and rest. It's because of the lack of oxygen. Our body needs to get acclimatized to the lack of oxygen and the new elevation. So we go up and down the mountain a bunch of times, and then we go all the way up. So every time we come down the mountain, it feels like failing because the summit is that way and you're coming back down. It doesn't make sense really. You're like, how come I'm wasting my energy going back down? And it feels like you're going away from your goal so that you get more energy and, get a better perspective, kind of boost yourself, learn more, gear up more, eat more to get ready for the next challenge. And I think one of the biggest things that I've learned was that making peace with that going backward. Because, things happen in our lives, in our companies, in our organizations, and we have to go backward a little. A few steps down to a lower elevation, and it seems like, oh, I was here like 2 years ago. How come I'm going backwards? This, I didn't want to be here at this point of time. But then I have to go down and I have to keep going down. When you are ready, your body's ready. Because up there's lack of oxygen and you need to be ready for it and you need to gear up for it. So I think the biggest thing that helped me so much was that going down is not bad. It's not negative. Going down is just an opportunity for me to get ready for an even bigger goal, a bigger mountain, a higher elevation. And so I completely changed my relationship with going backwards, with failure. And all of a sudden, fail was something great. Going backwards, taking a few steps was an opportunity for me to grow even more and connect more and gear up and eat and just get ready to go up there. And so I think that made my whole life different. So when there's traffic, I never complain. It feels like going backwards in time, like, oh, I'm wasting my time in traffic right now. But then all of a sudden it becomes about, okay, how can I benefit from this time so that I'm ready for the next thing? So rather than kind of staying in the upset, staying with the negativity of it, and I'm doing air quotations here, I decide to benefit from that time. And I think this is one of the biggest lessons that I learned on the mountain. And I try to relay all of it to the people that I work with, my own clients, the organizations, and even the women all over the world that I work with, that failing is just an opportunity for us to get prepared even better for the higher elevation.
Thank you. That is an awesome metaphor. Very, very powerful. And the key is to not quit.
Yeah,
when we experience what we perceive to be a failure, as you have learned very well, and to stay focused on the intention and to get the learnings and to apply the positive learnings so that we can take better care of ourselves as we climb back up, so we can, breathe more oxygen, so to speak, and really enjoy the experience, on the way up. And of course, once we get there. So, Sara, I am so grateful to you. I think that there are so many lessons that you have learned, and I honor you for sharing them with others. And for those people that are team leaders who are listening, so corporate executives, who really do have that responsibility, what guidance do you have for them about how to challenge their teams, how to help their teams deal with those uncertainties or steps back?
I would say that it takes a lot of trust and encouragement. So in leadership, one of the styles of leadership that I really promote for leaders is servant leader. A servant leader is a person who is very interested in the growth and development of the team. They want to encourage the team so that they learn about themselves, learn their strengths and weaknesses. Kind of, it's interested for all the team to discover for themselves what is the next thing that they want to do, how they can use their skills to be a better engineer, a better marketing person, a business development person, a better finance person, whatever department that they are working. So it takes a lot of trust and it takes a lot of selflessness, which kind of, it feels like this have a big conflict with the word leader. Because when you say leader, we're expecting something a little kind of autocratic, kind of bossing people around and, that charismatic person. But then I really encourage leaders to look at it, like kind of find it inside themselves. Where is that servant leader inside you? Because when you started this organization that you are doing, you wanted to help others. Probably you wanted to help yourself, your family, people around you, so many circles, your society, your community, and then find that why, like the why that you started from. Because a lot of our servant leadership is living inside that why. And that's how we can help our team to be bigger, to be better, to grow, ask them right questions on how kind of to find themselves, to discover for themselves, like think about riding a bike. A lot of times we can give our team a lot of knowledge, like a lot of training, a lot of, information, but it's not about the information and adding knowledge because Google is right there. People can always Google things, but, I think it's more about helping others discover it for themselves, how capable they are and who they are. Who is this person who's working for me, working for my organization, and what they're good at? So kind of it's like biking, I can give you a lot of knowledge on how to ride a bike. These are the instructions, the 10 steps to ride a bike. But a person who's sitting on a bike, the moment they discover balance, that's the moment they know, okay, this is balance. So, and then that's the moment they understand all those instructions. So a lot of times as leaders, we approach the organizations by more training and more books and more reading and more information, more knowledge. But giving people the space to grow, the space, that freedom to discover it for themselves, I think it's one of the biggest things that sometimes we forget. And that's something I encourage leaders to kind of relook at, revisit, and try to see how they can find a little or amazing big servant leader inside themselves and take it to the next level.
Yeah, thank you. I love that. And it takes courage to be able to do that, and patience, and a belief that, this individual can make it, right? With support, with a lot of acknowledgement, with, right, holding their hand, right, in many ways, that they can reach the summit, so to speak. And then I imagine the joy of that leadership when your people, reach their summits is much greater than them achieving their own, as I imagine was your experience with the girls.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's why I named my nonprofit climb Your Everest, because we all have Everest every day that we are climbing. And it's like that daily life, that, personal life and professional life. And that looking at all these challenges as mountains to climb, and it's about kind of enjoying the mountain rather than kind of focusing, I'm going to get to the top of it. Because if you want to focus on the top of the mountain, I'm just going to take these actions to get to the top. It's not fun. This is our life. This is probably our only life that we have. And kind of staying with the journey of it, kind of staying with the progress and the learning and enjoying the learning, I think it's a big part of it, rather than just kind of focusing on, I can wait to get to those numbers that that was my goal in the beginning of the quarter. And I think it's a lot of kind of beauty in focusing on the journey.
Sara, how can people learn more about your journey, whether it's, get your books, hire you for speaking, invest in your nonprofit organization? How can people support your work?
My personal website for my business, for my speaking business, is sarasafari.com. And I'm pretty available on my social media and everything. So if you just Google Sara Safari, probably come up. And I would say for a nonprofit, climb youreverest.org. And people who are interested, I don't mind taking your money. That's great. The cost for each girl to participate in online virtual workshops and get educational programs for each month is $25. If you're interested to sponsor one girl for 1 month, that's $25. That will take a long way. That woman can receive education. I say girl because I just love them. They're so cute and lovely and amazing, but I really women. And you can sponsor a woman for a month to participate in online classes. Or if you are a person who are good at marketing or social media or PR and you want to donate your time, or you have a skill that you want to be one of our volunteers to teach some of these online classes, again, that's amazing. So if you're interested to help, we'll find something for you to do. So reach out to me. My email, Sara, Sara, at climbyoureverest.org. And I'm looking forward to talk with whoever is interested. Well,
thank you from all my heart, Sara, for your time, your dedication to these women and girls, and your dedication to help everybody achieve the impossible. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.